Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we're going to take a look at two 5-cent coins from the country of Canada. And you can see right at the top of each of these it says 5 cents, maple leaf on each side of these. And the maple leaf is somewhat significant on the 1953 coin. We'll talk about that later. It says Canada here, 1952, Canada here, 1953. And of course we have a beaver in the river. You can see the beaver's tail there. And if we go way down in, you see a K and a G there for George Kruger Gray, who was the engraver of these coins. Let's take a look at these a little bit more with a little bit brighter light so we can kind of take more in-depth look at them. And you see that if we do that, you can actually see the hair on the beaver. You can see the whiskers. See the whiskers here. You can see kind of the hair as it goes up through the beaver tail there. You can see the gearing here. You can see these kind of ripples going around the beaver, who has, it looks like he has a log in, maybe is on a rock. And George Kruger Gray just did a fine design, and it's very emblematic of Canada, this 5-cent coin. If we tip it up, we see that it is indeed a dodecagonal 12-sided coin with these kind of rounded edges on it. Now there's a funny kind of shine to this, and people go, why is it so hard to light? What's the problem with this? Well, this is when they were still doing a chromium plated steel. So this is a chromium plate on a steel coin. So this is magnetic, but it has a chromium outside on it. This one over here, of course, same thing. If we tip it up, we get, now this one's a 1953. It's got a little bit less wear, and we can kind of see some colors kind of brighten out of there. Some of you have probably guessed already why we have a 1952 and a 1953, or maybe you actually read the title for the video. If we flip this over, we see it's George VI. George VI, Dea Gratia, by the grace of God, Rex, or King. And if we go way down underneath here, we see an H and a P. Well, this coin was engraved by Thomas Humphrey Paget. Again, we have the geared outer rim on here. We have King George VI facing to the left. And those of you who know British royal history know that this is not going to be King George VI on this coin, because King George VI died in 1952. Who is it? It's Queen Elizabeth II, the first portrait, the Mary Gillick portrait. Now, Mary Gillick did not put her initials on the portrait, so there's no initials here, but we see the same thing. Elizabeth II, or Elizabeth II, Dea Gratia, same thing, by the grace of God. Regina. Latin for queen is Regina. Latin for king is Rex. If we tip this up, we get some really beautiful coloring on this. This is a pretty high quality coin. This one is much more worn. That's because I bought these cheap, and this one is a little bit more expensive. If it's in this condition, a lot more expensive. What have we got here? Well, we have a 1952 and a 1953, and we have a changing of the guard. King George VI died. Queen Elizabeth II took power. We also have these kind of weird coins, and those of you who know the modern coins know that the modern Canadian nickels are not dodecagonal, they are rounded. And let's take a look at, here's a kind of a later version, and this, you can see how they went to the rounding here. And when we look at this one, we see again just some real fine engraving on here. Look at that. If we tip it, we can get just the light here. And then, of course, there's a Kruger Gray. This coin in 1963, you see it's rounded. And so in 1963, they were making them rounded. 1953, they were making them dodecagonal. There were a number of different coins for King George VI in the last years of his reign. Let's explain why that is. Well, one thing that they did was they actually put out a kind of commemorative coin in 1951. Canada nickel, 1751 to 1951, 5 cents. So this is kind of the commerce coin, and it's commemorative. And we see the 3 maple leaves on this one. So this is dodecagonal. This is the 1951, the commemorative. There was also another 1951 that was dodecagonal, which wasn't a commemorative. In 1952, King George VI died. Then we switched over to Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth had the dodecagonal, but then they switched over to the rounded. There are some specialty collectors things that you can look at on this 1953. And the 1953 coin has some value depending on how far away that leaf is from the head of the beaver. If you want to look on either Coins in Canada or you want to look on Numista, and they actually have some pretty good descriptions. So if you have one, they're called the first die and the second die. Well, the first die has kind of a pretty wide range here, and that's what this one is. The second die has a leaf that comes closer in. So if you put them both together, you can see them. And then the other thing that they had was, if there are no folds on the shoulder here for Queen Elizabeth, that's a different kind of coin. So what happened was when they did this, they tried to put some folds, and the folds were of course cloth, and it's a deeper shoulder fold, they call it. So if you're looking for this coin, there's two major variations: the deeper shoulder or the heavy folds on the front, that's two variations on the front, and the far leaf and the close leaf on the back. If you get the right one, if you get the 1953 with a fold in the shoulder and leaves really far apart, that's worth about $35 or $36 on Numista. And Coins in Canada has it for somewhat less. When you look for these, if you get the 53, not only is this the first year of Queen Elizabeth's reign, so a lot of people want that first coin, the Mary Gillick first portrait, but it also is a coin that has two front varieties and two rear varieties. All right, that's all we have today from DC Coinworld International Coin Channel. Have a great day, and we'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.